This episode of the Capsule in Conversation is brought to you by WeCure. A leader in health tourism, WeCure offers specialist EMDR trauma treatment whilst you reflect and heal in the Mediterranean. Reset your mind and well-being. Speak to WeCure. WeCure.co.uk/capsule. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Capsule in Conversation. I'm Natalie Anderson and I'm thrilled to have you with me as we launch a brand new series of our podcast. Now, I know you might be thinking, what the heck happened to the rest of series 2? Well, as this is 2020 and anything can happen, we decided to start afresh with a brand new energy as we head into the last part of the year. So buckle up and get ready to join in with our conversation. Hello all, I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is lovely to have you with us for this brand new series. We are entering a new phase of 2020 and what a bumpy ride it's been. Well done to us all for getting this far. And continuing from where we left off with Series 2, we've got more fabulous guests joining us across the coming weeks, giving us an honest insight into women's wellness and mental health and providing expert advice on leadership, business and how to feel empowered. We want you to feel ready to take on the world after this. And kicking us off today on this new part of our journey is one very multi-talented lady who's graced the stage and screen and has a string of hit records under her belt. It's the fabulous Suzanne Shaw. Hi, Suze.
Hi, what a lovely intro. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so delighted to have you with me. Firstly, I mean, we've got so much to talk about, but how has this whole thing been for you?
Oh, where do I start? So, when the whole pandemic started to really rear its ugly head, I was on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean performing.
Oh,
so
God.
I had started doing my one-woman show on P&O cruises. And so I was there, and I was there when Italy went into lockdown. And a couple of cruise ships had gone into lockdown. And I remember thinking, I've got one more night on here and then I'm off. Because my cabin, as lovely as they look after us, had no signal, has no balcony. It was, fairly a good size, but I thought I can't be trapped in here for, 2 weeks or however long. So luckily I'd got off. About 5 days later, that ship went into lockdown, and anybody who was on that ship was in lockdown for 7 weeks. So luckily I got home and then back with the family. Also, as well, we were moving house, so it was almost like when the UK went into lockdown, we went into lockdown on the day, I think it was the day or the day after our move. So we got clearance from the government that we could still go ahead with our move, but we couldn't use anybody to help us. We couldn't have anyone.
That must have been an absolute nightmare for moving and getting in and feeling like making a home.
Yeah,
it must have been like, I don't know, living our boxes and just, like beans and whatever else, because at that time as well, it was so strict, the beginning of the lockdown.
Well, it was good and bad. I mean, we moved and it was tough because it was just Sam and I. And luckily we got Corey, who is 15 and is pretty strong, so he could help us. So we did pretty much do it single-handedly. And moving quite a lot. And at the end, I thought, God, I am so shattered. And I thought, I've got to be shut up here. There are people and nurses and doctors in hospital who are working. And I just thought, and I've just moved house. So shut up and put up. So we got into the house. And then because my gig had been cancelled, I was going on tour. I managed to be at home and we just stayed indoors and did lovely things with the house and managed. I've never been so organised in my life.
Well, as a touring mum, I mean, I know that feeling. That must have been amazing for you, actually, to have that downtime with the kids.
Yeah, especially because I'd just come back from the Caribbean. It was so nice to be with them. Unfortunately, Rafi was really poorly. We think he's had the virus.
Oh, God.
So we had to pull him out of nursery. He had all the symptoms, the cough, the high temperature, and he was actually really quite poorly as well. At one point, we felt guilty for doing it, but we called 111 because the supermarkets had run out of Calpol.
Yeah.
So we're like, we need to get his temperature down. I mean, he was hitting 40 with his temperature, and we were like, oh. So luckily, a neighbour put someone on our doorstep. We gave him that, and within a few hours, he was the temperature come down, and it took about 2 weeks for him to recover. So because of that, we went into isolation a little bit long, before we actually went into lockdown, and Corey came out of school. Then we did the move, and then I was able to be at home, with the gig being cancelled. So. Yeah, and then I've been home since, all like you. I'm sure like all the gigs have been cancelled, and at the moment I'm still doing panto. My panto's not been cancelled.
Wow, that's really big.
I know. Well, this theatre it's a small venue, and it's open at the moment for screenings. So as far as the producer's concerned, they're going ahead right now.
I mean, that must be so nice for you, because it's been such a worry for everybody in many different forms of employment, but particularly in the acting industry and the entertainment industry. That is very precarious at the best of times, and even more so now. So because we'll talk more about mental health later on, but that must have also, the worry and the strain of thinking, when is my next gig now? Put some pressure on you from a mental health point of view as well.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? And I think, like you said, it's precarious most of the time anyway. Being in the entertainment industry, you never know when your next gig's coming in. And I think as a performer, especially when you've been in it as long as we have, you get used to having that feeling, and almost you turn it into an excitement. So unlike most people who are maybe employed all the time, I think all the work going is almost like you're kind of used to it, not knowing what's going to happen next. I just think for me personally, I've had to not worry about work and look after myself. And make sure that I'm happy and my family's happy and healthy.
And do you think as well, I've been following your journey, your well-being journey since the beginning of the year, and God, if ever there was a poster girl for don't drink and get running, it's you. I mean, you look so incredibly radiant. I mean, do you think that attitude to that change of lifestyle at the beginning of the year has helped you as well get through the lockdown period?
Well, it's funny because before we entered this year, I'd made this decision to do 20 challenges in 2020. I'd already gone on a plant-based diet, and I've been vegan since November, and I was feeling great. And I had planned to take on a 1 year no beer challenge with the company. And I thought, well, what else can I do? It will be 20 years of me being in the entertainment industry. It's 2020. So I wanted to do 20 challenges, and one of them being, running challenges as well. So I'd kind of gone into the new year with that thought. Now, when the pandemic hit and we went into lockdown, that was the best opportunity to go, listen, I don't have to stick to this now.
Yeah.
I can do what I want. No one's going to know. So I almost thought, shall I bother doing this? And also we moved house. The weather got nice. There was that thought of having a nice glass of cold, crisp wine on, outside. I just think, you know what, I'll just do it. But my relationship with alcohol could be volatile. I do suffer with mental health, and I was never giving myself fully the chance to crack it, to control it, to be in control myself. And because, it got to the point, the older I was getting, the harder it was. I'd have a couple of glasses, and the day after I was riddled with anxiety. And I just didn't want that for my life. So I thought, no, this is the best of time to do everything that I can for myself. So I continued not drinking. As much as I'd started running a couple of months before, I really embraced the running.
Yeah.
Stuck to the plant-based. And I thought, I looked at my Instagram page and I thought, what is it all about? I'll post if I get a gig. There's no real meaning to it. So I thought, what? Why not change your Instagram page to tell your story and to talk about your new lifestyle changes? So that's what I've done. And I've been in the industry for 20 years. done this for 5 minutes and I've never got so much traction before from it. You know, it's something that seems to have really resonated with a lot of people out there.
I think this is the thing now with the industry. It's very different to how it was when you and I first entered it. You know, we were both very young. You know, I was 15, you were very young, 17, you were probably a bit younger. But at the same time, in our very, you know, middle teen years, back in the like mid 90s, and it was a different place. It was very much kind of keep yourself together, you know, don't kind of trip up. If you even think about like Britney Spears, it's kind of, you don't make mistakes, you paint yourself as the picture perfect girl, and you don't reveal anything that you might be struggling with. Nowadays it's very different. It's kind of you're asked to be more open, and you're asked to kind of you know, just share a bit more, because people want to know the real you. They don't just want to like buy a song and go, oh, they want to know the person behind the song. They want to know the actor behind the film. And obviously I think that's why there's such a rise in reality TV, in the sense that people feel like they know people. And I don't know how you feel about it, because I tread this, it was a question I was going to ask you later. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm like, I get really scared. I want to speak out about things that I'm really passionate about and that I really care about. And then I go, but you don't air your dirty laundry in public, because that's what your mum's always told you, or your grandma's told you. And isn't it hard, that kind of like rising up against that?
Yeah, I completely get what you're trying to say there. I mean, for me, you know, we grew up in an industry, and especially if you went to dance school like we did, and, you know, you go to the drama classes and everything, you are told to get on with it. You are professional. You're on stage. I mean, it's brutal, the dance training. The dance world is, you know, it's hard going. So you enter the entertainment industry with a very tough skin, because you've had rejection after rejection already. And then, like you say, you know, you go and you are almost created, you're given a character to play, and you play that character, and that is your success, that is your brand. But then when I entered the TV world, when I had my big break, we went into a reality show. Now, I think being the first, nobody knew what it was about. The record company didn't deal with it, because they groomed their artists to be a certain way. So they released the records, and you were either the girl next door, or you were the sassy brunette, or you were the gobby one. You know, you had a role to play. Whereas going into a reality show, being picked from a band, them knowing where we're from, knowing what our houses look like, who our parents are, suddenly they had to deal with a very different pop band. And that pop band was a soap opera and not a music group. And so therefore we were plastered all over the papers for our personal lives, and were not known for our music. And they, you know, it was growing into a very new way of what the industry is now in the music industry. And I think it is the start of reality, that kind of like, it's like you've got to know that person's backstory to then create a brand to be successful. Whereas for us, we were the first, so it was just throw anything at the wall, see what sticks. This is sticking. They're getting all the attention from the media because of their backstories. However, it bit us on the bum, because then the audience didn't know us for our music, they knew us for the gossip, and it all got too much. And in the end, we were getting booed at you know, at road shows, at our performances. So
I mean,
really
that
backfired.
must have been so tough for you, Suzanne. I mean, you know, getting that level of fame at such a young age. And as you say, nobody could have possibly prepared you for that, because it was the first foray back into TV talent shows. You know, we'd had things like New Faces and Stars in the Rise, but Pop Stars was a completely different thing, really, when you think about how, as you say, people got to know the character, they got to know where you live, and they bought into that. And overnight, just being plastered everywhere must have been such a terrifying experience. Do you think in some respects that media attention at such a young age has maybe led to some of your mental health struggles later on in life, that you maybe didn't deal with it at that time?
And you know, it could come from the rejection that I had at such a young age. You know, I did my first TV job when I was 12, so I was in a very adult world and dealing with very different circumstances to all of my friends. And so you could say it came from that, but I definitely think, a lot of the trauma came from publicly being put out there at such a young age. I thought at the time I was old enough. I was 18, turned 19 when we first got into the band. I was a baby, really. But then all my love life was splattered all over the papers. The most intimate details of things that exes had sold on me, the papers had elaborated or even made up. And, that was all there. And it was public humiliation. And I was embarrassed. I didn't want to go out walking down the street. And so, and you're told, well, it's part of the industry. You wanted to be famous, so going to have to suck it up. It's almost like, hold on. I wanted to sing, dance and act. That's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to inspire young girls like myself. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want ex-boyfriends talking about, what we did in the bedroom. That, isn't, and I just felt, coming out of the band, there was huge trauma. I therefore then buried my head in the sand about it, jumped straight into another job, went into musical theatre, thought I'll go back to what I know and love.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time, like on opening night, about to walk out on stage, and I turned to one of the cast members and said, do you think they're going to boo me? And they looked at me like, you're in musical theatre. No one boos in musical theatre.
No, you're not allowed to do that there. Don't be ridiculous. That's very bad.
Yeah, unless you're doing panto. No, you're not going to get booed. So, yeah, it was terrifying. And I think the trauma from that experience in the band, I feel like we were also used for the likes of the TV channel and the record company. They didn't know what to do a lot of the time because we were the very first, but there was no care. And there certainly was no aftercare. Once we were obviously... we left when we were still getting top 5 records. So we were still very much in the prime of our music career, and we decided to fold the band, and so therefore we were dropped, and that was it. No one to be seen anywhere.
And so going from that moment of this huge fame, I mean, and like you say, you're kind of achieving the dreams that you wanted, in the sense that, you were dancing, but you were performing to thousands and thousands of people. You were in the recording studio doing all those fun things as well that you had envisaged as a kid, going, oh my God, I'm in the studio, I've got my first single. To go from that massive high and then that huge low. I mean, how on earth did you find the strength to pick yourself up from there? And what personally did you do? Because there'll be lots of people at the minute now who've been made redundant, who have, had amazing jobs, and the pandemic has just wiped everything out, and they have to start again. I mean, what did you do, and what's your advice?
Well, at the time, I probably partied a little bit too hard, so don't do that. I got into a relationship with my ex, Darren, and obviously had Corey from there, and I became a mum. But in terms of what did I do, I kind of didn't think about it, and I think that really possibly was one of my biggest mistakes. So don't do what I did. Sit down, reflect, think about what you truly want to do for a living. But what I will say is that you will bounce back, because you always do. Survival kicks in, and just always know that it's always going to be okay. It's never going to be a rainy day every day. And so it is about just knowing that fast forward in a month's time, 6 months, a year's time, life will be very different. So don't feel like you're stuck in that moment forever.
I think that is the thing, isn't it? With the moment, you've got to kind of think, you know what? This is 24 hours, and I've got to ride the wave, because you do get that. I get that anxiety all the time, and it's terrible. And I've got this new thing at the minute where I read a really brilliant statement that said, in the moment, you are safe, you're all right, nothing is hurting you, you are actually fine. It's the past experience and past trauma that's causing this anxiety of the fear of something, the worry of something. But if you remind yourself that actually in the moment you're safe and fine, that's kind of how I ride the wave now is
Yeah.
because otherwise it does take over your life and it can completely affect all your decision making. And
Oh
you
yeah.
think, oh God, have I made
Yeah.
bad decisions? I mean,
Yeah.
going back again to your move into musical theatre, again, following on from Hearsay,
Mm.
you were probably one of the first pop stars, shall we say, that moved into musical theatre. And even though you
Yeah.
trained and you've been working in the industry since you were a child, there's a certain stigma that comes
Yeah.
with that. You know, when you think about Joseph or Chicago or even, you know, Summer Holiday, when
Mm.
you had those roles, did you feel like you had a real point to prove to
Yeah.
not necessarily the audience, to your peers?
Yes, absolutely. It's been one of the biggest challenges of my career, actually, is going into a room and proving that I am justified to be there. And it's so tough. It is it's frustrating as well. And even now, going into a new ensemble, and I'll have it again this time in panto.
Mm.
I've done 15, 16 pantomimes, and I'll still have people judge me from being in a pop band and felt like that I was picked off the street and that I'd never trained. It is infuriating. I remember doing Chicago, and the guy who was playing Fred, one of the characters at the beginning who Roxy shoots, said to me on my opening night, just as I was going on stage, "Oh, it must be so nice, being a reality star, not having any training and suddenly landing in the West End." And I just thought, God, you're going to get shot so hard on stage.
Shut up!
Yeah. And I just thought, that's, it's not their fault. They feel like they haven't done their due diligence and done their research on me. And why should they? But, it is infuriating when you've trained from being 3 years old. I'd been doing my first musical at 9. And, I had, the right to be there just as much as everybody else. It just so happened that, the way the papers portrayed my fame was like, I was really lucky, and I just started singing one day in front of Nigel Lithgow, and bam, there I
Well,
was.
it's like Amber Davis, you know, Amber
Yeah.
who was on Love Island, and she is a trained musical theatre actor, and
Yes.
obviously she's done 9 to 5. And
Yeah.
I think at the time, you know, I entered Pop Idol. It's what I
Yeah.
did. It was
Of
kind of, you
course.
know, I ended up getting my agent from that, and it was. I saw it, and I'm sure you probably saw it the same at the time.
Mm.
It was a version of the stage newspaper. You know,
Yeah.
people were putting advertisements in the
Yeah.
stage, and
Yeah.
like the Spice Girls did, they rocked up to an audition,
Yeah.
and it was the same thing as far as I was
Yeah.
concerned. It was a shop window of you being able to uh, hopefully do the job that you've been training to do since you were a kid.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
it doesn't always, as you say, that with the papers, it's
Mm.
not portrayed that way, and that's the you know, the business of television. But you know, again, as you said, it takes its toll from a mental health perspective, and also
Yeah.
as a woman, something else that I think is incredibly important now is that, again, 20 years ago when that kind of was happening, if you weren't a certain age, you were thrown to the wolves. You were like, oh, right, that's it. You're fodder now. You're done.
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah.
this year, you know, we celebrated people like Jennifer Aniston and Jennifer Lopez turning
Yeah.
50. And the industry has changed massively in its appreciation of women getting older and women of different shapes and sizes. I mean, do you find that, and do you think it's a better place for women now?
I think the tide is turning. It really is. I think with lots of things, I think it is better. I still feel like there's a long way to go. Even of recent times, going in the production world and producing.
Yeah.
Oh, there is no women out there in producing theatre, TV. It's a very small industry for women, and filled with men who are very much set in their ways. So there's still way to go. But I do feel like we are allowed to celebrate our age, our shapes and sizes, and I think it's great. And I think social media has helped that, has helped people be braver to speak and be themselves. And for me, this is why I took a real U-turn on my Instagram page, because I felt like it was about time that people were okay with being who they are.
Mm.
And that's why I did the bit about my cellulite. It's why I've spoken openly about having to quit alcohol, my mental health, having to change my lifestyle because I wasn't happy. So I just feel like it's if we all started to take that lead of being honest and true, and it's okay not to be perfect. It's
Yeah.
okay to, you know, not have a good day, or to have a bit of cellulite, or to not worked out that day. We don't have to be perfect. Society has told us that if you're not working hard, you're lazy. If you're not looking a certain way, you're lazy. And it's not fair. So I think so many people are coming to the forefront and doing that now, and celebrating their age, their shapes, their sizes, what they do in a day. And I think it's wonderful. And I think once we all start doing that a little bit more, it's going to be a very different world for the generation below us.
You know, when you shared that picture with your cellulite, I'm
Yeah.
interested to know kind of what reaction did you get from both men and women? Did you get different reactions?
I got really good reactions from both. Majority women, but only ever so slightly.
Mm.
Men just saying, it's great. Why don't you celebrate it more? You look fantastic. It's, you know, we can't stand it if you don't have it. You know, you need something, you know, all of those kind
Ah,
of comments. And then, you know, women like just saying to me, you have saved my summer. You have made my day. You know, you posting that has made me feel comfortable. I'm going to put shorts on tomorrow. I'm going to put a skirt. One particular girl who came to me she was in bits, saying all her life it's ruined her, that she
oh.
thought she was the only one who had all this cellulite. And she just said, thank you so much for putting it up there. It's made me feel so much better about myself. And I thought, it's because we don't show it. We don't show the flaws because society's told us not to. Society's told us you won't be on the front cover of something if you look like that, or
And
you
you know
won't.
what? You're right, because again, if you think it's there is still a long way to go,
Mm,
because when you look at Adele recently and
yes.
her weight loss,
Hmm.
that she is a young mum, you know, who's got a young son and probably is just like, right, I want to have a load of energy, I want to do this, I want to do that. She's made a choice for herself.
Yeah.
And how that was plastered across all the newspapers and online publications, and whether they were congratulating her or shaming her, there's still a long way to go, because
Yeah.
clearly appearance does dominate everything.
Yeah, it does. And I think as well, again, papers ran by majority of men, unfortunately.
We're
But a
not
paper,
man bashing, we're not,
we're
honestly,
not,
but
we're
it
not,
is
we're not.
unfair.
But no, it's a certain generation
Yeah.
of people, not just men, a certain generation. And that goes with certain ways that we speak about things and do things, you know. We are kind of we're kind of splitting, you know, your mine generation of, we are a little bit like the young ones. We're willing to change and do things differently, but we are also set in our ways from the older generation who you
We're like,
know,
oh, can't get
think
out.
yeah, it's you know, do things in a certain way, and that certain way is gossiping and going, oh well, they're not very good at something, or you know. And that is the older generation. They are very much like that. It is the pub chat, the hairdresser chat, and that's what the papers are still doing, feeling like society need that
Mm,
gossip and shaming in the paper for it to sell. It's very dated, and I do think that within a very close time scale, we won't find the need for that anymore. You know, podcasts are the things, positive speaking, you know. I don't get magazines or papers, or very rarely even watch TV anymore. I
mm.
watch Netflix for documentaries and inspirational things, or a great, you know, series, and I listen to podcasts for inspiration or a good giggle on something. So you've got so much choice there, and I feel like that old way is turning, and I think it's just a generational thing. I don't feel like there's much need for that gossip, shaming, and negativity anymore. I think we live. We're starting to live in a different society.
I completely agree with you. And I think that is why things like Instagram have become
Yeah,
so huge, because
yeah,
people can they don't have to be nasty. You don't
Yeah.
have to be nasty to sell something. I was having this conversation with my husband about, the phrase of like nice girls don't win. And I said,
Yeah.
that's so awful. Isn't that horrible? Because actually we should be promoting to our
Yeah.
younger women and men as well. We
Yeah.
should be saying, no, being nice and being kind is the
Yeah.
better way forward, because you'll empower each other. You don't need to be nasty to each other. You
Yeah.
don't need to shame each other. You come together and rise each other up,
Yeah.
push each other forward for a better world, for make better choices, make it safer, make
Definitely.
it happier, rather than having a society, as you mentioned, which is just riddled with mental health problems and
Yeah.
anxiety and worry. And I mean, it is hard because, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. It is hard because, you do see Instagram and it
Yeah.
can be like a glossy magazine in the
Yeah.
sense that it is like lovely, 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 lovely. But I
Yeah.
think, what you were saying in the beginning, it's about showing balance.
Yeah.
It's about being, right, I can be this, but I'm
Yeah.
also this.
Yeah.
And, there are lots of brilliant, I love Busy Phillips. She's so brilliant. And,
Yeah.
I love looking at her podcast and her Instagram just because she's not afraid. And she's a huge Hollywood actress, but she's not afraid to show who she is.
Yeah.
And I think you're right in the sense that our younger generation are really fighting hard for their voices to be heard
Yes.
and for them to be the game changers, really. And that makes
Yeah.
me really proud. I
Yeah.
mean, you must feel the same about like our young people just going
Yeah.
out there and making change.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And I think that, there is a very different vibe. I mean, you do still have young girls, unfortunately, feeling like they have to look a certain way to fit in. And I think that's something that may never change and is made
Yeah.
part of our makeup, is that you have to feel wanted to look a certain way. And it's a shame but I do also feel like you have people not being afraid to speak up now. I'm really proud of my son. He's really switched on like that. He, if I get irate about something, like he's not done his homework or he's not tidied his bedroom, and I go to what my parents did to me, you just start shouting, or you start using a raised, very high pitched voice. And he says to me, he said, I won't speak to you when you're in this state. Calm down and we'll have a conversation about it. And I do think he's right. He's
Yeah.
absolutely right. But it's just it's learned behavior. Because it was like, get that room done. If you don't get it done, well, you know what's going to happen. You're not going out this weekend with your mates. And then no. And it's already up there. And you're like, and it really, actually, what I need to do is say, listen, you've let me down. Can you just do it? We all have to live in the same environment together. And then he would respond of, so sorry, Mum. Yeah, I'll do it. Because that's how they chat now.
They're very intelligent. Like,
Yeah.
again, you can have these conversations, and the intellect of our young people, and just I suppose it's what they are, what's in front of them. As you said, they can consume on Netflix, on YouTube, they can choose whatever they're interested in and really focus in on that. And there's a plethora of information there for them. And so they are clever and intelligent, and the way they write's clever and intelligent. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really rubbish. And I have that mum guilt where I'm like, somebody help me.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh gosh.
I mean, obviously you are a really busy lady, because you're not only, a singer and an actress, and you're a producer as well. I mean, tell me a little bit more about this aspect of your career, because you started your own production company. And
I did.
what kind of was the catalyst for that?
I think it was just because I wanted to just make exciting stuff. I wanted to be a part of creating something. And also, it did very much come from, if it's not out there for you to audition for it, create it. And then when I ended up creating it, all the characters I created, I didn't picture myself in them. So I ended up not being in it. And yeah, me and Noel, my ex-band friend, who was in the band with me, we created a TV series. And yeah, we did the pilot for it. It's still very much out there, still being pitched about. And yeah, I do love doing it. But we have obviously the production company, and there was a lot of stuff that was we were putting out there, and it's had to be pulled and cancelled. So now we've had to really relook at the business. I've also had to relook at, is it really what I want to do? And as much as I love the creating side of it, and I love writing and I love coming up with concepts, I did sit down and have a hard word with myself, is that I don't want to be a producer. I don't want to be in that world. So it's actually something I've taken a big back step from. So the time in lockdown really gave me that chance to reflect on, is being a producer what I really want to do? And I dipped in it and produced the pilot that we did, and it was really stressful, really tough. But I wrote the show, I was producing it, and then as the same again with a concert that I was doing that unfortunately then ended up being cancelled because of low ticket sales. And I just thought I was about to go in to do another show, and we cancelled it because of the pandemic. And then I sat back and thought, is this really what I want from my life? It's very stressful. I kind of fell into it by accident because I ended up having to pick up a project that was going on, and I ended up having to help out and produce it myself. And because I was kind of good at the organisation side of things, somebody
I've
said,
been there. I know what that feels like.
Yeah, you should produce. And then I ended up doing it thinking somebody told me that I was good at it, but it's not something that I decided I wanted to do. So I have made the decision not to go down that route, and just stick to the writing and creating of it. And just concentrate on me and like I said, like getting better. And because of my storytelling through my mental health and the lifestyle changes, I feel like maybe this is what I want to continue to do, really.
Don't you think that I feel like there's a little revolution going on at the minute where people are standing their ground and saying, I will not be worked into the ground. It's not acceptable anymore. Actually, you know what? I don't want to do it. And I think lockdown has given a lot of people that opportunity to sit back and go, I don't want to be that competitive. I don't want to be, always chasing. I've got a family, I want to be a good mom or a good husband or a good parent, a good father, anything. We've had I felt it brimming inside of me for a long time, actually. And I think, again, it was another reason why I wanted to pursue the Capsule, because I was like, I love fashion, I love well-being, I love lifestyle. I used to collect every single Glamour magazine and Vogue magazine that there was, and it's always been part of me, but something that I'd not really put out there, but as a passion. It's always been a huge passion of mine to do fashion and lifestyle. And actually, it gives me a lot of joy. And I think, as you said, if something is making you happy, then that's what we need to do. If something is causing you pain or anxiety or stress, you need to reassess it.
Yeah, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly how I was feeling. And I think my partner said to me, and I hadn't realised I'd been doing it, he said, you do know for years, you are really passionate about when you get into fitness, you were really passionate about it, and you always end up changing your friends' minds on what to do and how to do it, or a new skincare that you'd found or something. He said that's what you're passionate about. When you find something you love, you are really good at chatting about it. And he said, so you have been doing that for so long in wellness. It's just because this time you've really stuck to it and you haven't had your day job interfering. And I did think, do you know what? It's maybe something I have to look at moving forward. And it's kind of organically happened. People are asking me loads of questions. I'm looking at collaborating with some companies. And it's a really exciting time. And it's because I want to do it, not because I feel like I should be doing it. And I think when I got into this entertainment industry, I wanted to sing, dance and act. And that became the last part of my job. And it all became about keeping up appearances, what you're wearing, who you were dating. And it became anything but my job. And that's why I moved very quickly back into musical theatre to make it about my job. And now, unfortunately, we're in a situation where it's not as easy to do that right now. So I feel like we have to, I've had to reassess and I feel really alive for the first time. I've not had this fire in my belly about a passionate project for such a long time, for years, for
And I
absolutely
mean, it
years.
does radiate. I messaged you and I was like, Suzanne, honest to God, you're like the biggest advocate for running and a healthy lifestyle. You look amazing. And I know that's me in a way, judging via social media, but more of an admiring you than
Yeah.
judging, because actually you can see it in your face. You can see it, in your aura. You are really enjoying what you're doing. I mean, am I
Yeah.
right in thinking you're going to do the marathon next?
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell me about that.
Well, I'm doing one this year.
Oh.
I've teamed up with some runners who are really good runners, and they've done marathons and ultra marathons, and they're going to join me in doing my first marathon. So for some reason, I got chatting to a guy called Mike Seaman, who runs the National Running Show. He's the events organizer, and he got in contact with me. He said, I don't know how you've done it, but you've become quite a big name in the running community.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
was like, what? I literally just put my trainers on, and my story is I just went out and started running because I wanted to get the noise out of my head,
Mhm.
because I wanted to get into nature. And again, it's just because I told my story, and a lot of people have decided to kind of follow suit and get their running shoes on, and I'm chatting to loads of people. So I'm running one with a guy who is doing 20 marathons in 7 days, and he's doing one of them with me. And he's raising money for breast cancer
Ah.
research. We've got people who just want to come along and run whatever they can because I inspired them to get running. So it's been really, really nice to be
And
a
in
part
terms of
of
your
that.
training then, so you must, because it's it's strict, isn't it, training for the marathon? So, but I mean,
Yeah,
you've already done
it
half of it, I
isn't.
suppose, because you've cut out the
Yeah,
alcohol and you're already on a plant-based diet. So
yeah.
you're kind of,
That side isn't going to be tricky for me. It's just getting the miles in my legs. So at the moment, this week I've been doing hit sessions, and I'm not actually running. I might go out this evening, but or tomorrow morning, but I've not run for 3 days now. So I'm trying to kind of strengthen my legs and my stomach up
Mm.
to be able to my core. To be able to get some more distance in me. So at the moment, I'd say I'm half marathon fit. So I just need to kind of get to probably 20, 21 miles, and then just take the rest on the actual day itself.
I did a half marathon last year, Leeds
Did
half
you?
marathon. Yeah,
Oh,
and
did you?
but I didn't train as much as I should have done.
Right.
Honestly, so I did it with a friend of mine, and afterwards we said we were in more pain than when we'd had a baby. I literally, we said, it
Some
was
days I
hilarious.
understand that.
We said, "Oh, we've done it. Let's go and get a glass of prosecco, yay!"
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
was at like, I think we were a really early start time, so I think it was something like 11 o'clock, going for a
Mm.
prosecco, and we got sat down, and the pair of us just looked at each other and went, I feel a bit sick.
Oh
And
God,
Beth,
yeah.
my friend, went, I feel sick as well. I don't feel well. The euphoria just wasn't there. And I was like, why is it not there? Why I've run all this way. I should be absolutely thrilled. But yeah, and that really made me appreciate just how hard the full
Yeah.
marathon is.
Yeah.
Because I thought,
Yeah.
crikey, if it's this tough at
Yeah.
13 miles, I
Hmm.
can't imagine what it is doing twice the distance. And
Yeah.
honestly, I have so much respect for anybody that runs or walks or does the
Yeah.
marathon, because
Me too.
it's an absolutely incredible feat, and it's amazing. And I mean, I think a lot of people feel like 2020 has, it's interrupted so many people's plans.
Yeah.
Obviously people have had their weddings cancelled, or,
Mm.
amazing moments like, going to your baby scan and it only being you and maybe not your
Yeah.
partner. And
Yeah.
that's been very difficult. But equally, I think, 2020, like you, has brought us so many things that we've had to reassess. And there
Yeah.
are new challenges out there. And we've still
Mm.
got the last quarter of the year yet to
Yeah.
really like go out there and make something happen. I mean, what's your advice to anyone listening in that, wants to feel like actually this year wasn't a waste? What would you tell them?
Oh, where do I start? Oh, there's so much to look forward to. I really feel like, I think you mentioned before about staying present. I'm a big, 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 huge advocate for that. a book that I read last year, which is Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Certainly is very, very powerful. And if you stay in that moment and try your best to forget about your past regrets, and therefore don't transfer it onto the fear of the future, you can really you can make so much happen for yourself. I feel like, your gut is your second brain, so feed it with the goodness. It's so important for your happiness. One thing that I obviously knew so long ago, but never really looked into it so much and put it into practice. And now I research food all the time. I always make sure it is its most natural form, because it really does make you feel amazing when you're and when you're in an amazing mindset. You can think of amazing things that you want to do and become creative, or come up with a new business idea, or go for a job that you have been scared of doing, because it's all about your confidence. And quitting drinking and changing my relationship with food and running has just given me the biggest confidence that I feel like I can go into a different sector now of my life and set up something that I'm really passionate about and move forward with. So I feel like anything is possible for anyone. No dream is out of reach. You've just got to kind of knuckle down and believe in yourself.
And don't be afraid to make a change.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of failing. I'm learning all the time, even on stage. Even though I've done 15 pantomimes, on this 16th pantomime, if it goes ahead, I'll be learning something new, working in a different environment with different people, on a different set, in front of a very different audience setup. So, you're always learning. So you're never going to be perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. It's just your own version of, be perfect for what you are. Be happy with your imperfections. So it is so important that fear is, you really, they're saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. Do it anyway, because no one's perfect. We all fail. And if they say you don't, they're lying. They're lying. We all do. And
Suze, we've run out of time for today, but it's been so lovely to have you with me. Honestly, such brilliant words of wisdom and inspiration there for everybody. To keep up with Suzanne on her fitness and wellbeing journey, you can follow her on Instagram at Susie_Shaw. If you want to catch up with us, you can do so at our website, www.thecapsule.co.uk, where you'll find more wellbeing, fashion and beauty, and you can catch up with our previous podcast episodes by visiting the In Conversation page and subscribing to any of our podcast channels and YouTube. Do leave us your rates and reviews, as we love hearing from you. If you're a social butterfly, you can also catch up with us on Instagram and Facebook at Official Capsule. I will be back next week with another very special guest, but today all that's left for us to say is goodbye. So it's goodbye from Suzanne.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
And goodbye from me. This episode of The Capsule in Conversation was brought to you by WeCure. Specialists in EMDR, trauma and mindfulness therapy, WeCure offers one-of-a-kind treatments whilst you reflect and heal in the Mediterranean. Reset your mind and well-being. Speak to WeCure. WeCure.co.uk/capsule.